we can get finished before, Thanks, Chris. Super late.
Okay, you're all set.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Averill Park Central School District's Board of Education meeting on this February 8th, 2021. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And just a couple notes. Anne Maroney will be joining us a little late due to another commitment. And Samantha Hicks has another commitment this evening and will not be able to join us. And Megan McGarry will be here in a few minutes. But with that, we will start item number 2, our superintendent's report.
Jim, if you're talking, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Rookie mistake. I just wanted to start it off by saying welcome to Mark and Mark. Two of our admin folks are here with us as their programmatic budgets will be reviewed tonight. So thank you to them for joining us and helping us as we walk through those later on in the evening. I have up for you the report. So the winter sports update, we met a week ago tonight. And since then, these are some of the updates that I shared with the board on Friday. Our plan has been approved by our medical director, Dr. Silverman. We updated the language in the plan regarding face coverings so they're worn at all times. One of the things we were waiting for at that point was for the orders for the nurses to be able to conduct the testing, and Dr. Silverman has provided us with those. We had our meeting with the county. We have a weekly meeting with the county executive and the commissioner of health in our county. And they had asked for a copy of our approved plan and the attestation that comes from New York State. And we completed those and got those in. We've been working with our colleagues at Questar, namely Craig Hansen, the director of safety, on an application that would serve as a disinfectant and sanitizer and reduce the spread of COVID as well as other viruses. We're looking at that in terms of pricing and seeing if that's something that's beneficial for us. And we spent some time on our testing plan, subject to change, but that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Wrestlers twice a week, the other sports once a week. We're going to start on Wednesday with our coaches just to make sure we got the flow and the protocol down and the first go round, kind of a real practice run. And then we'll begin testing our student athletes on Thursday, the 11th. Our location is the fitness room. And at this point, our modified student athletes, we're kind of making a little bit of a pause on that, kind of see how things go, how we handle the numbers. It's quite an ambitious plan of testing. So we wanted to make sure we focus on that and did that correctly, considering the high school athletes were the ones who are actually be engaging in competitions. So we're going to see how that goes from a capacity point of view and make some adjustments if we need to, including bringing the modified kids into it. Of course, if there's a positive test with wrestling, then we will test the wrestlers because they do share some space. So, and then we asked our school attorney to update our waiver. So now it's very clear that student athletes are consenting to COVID testing when they sign the waiver. And that was highlighted in the area below. So again, all this information is from the update on Friday. So nothing new. We did meet today, have some conversations. I was on a call with Mark and Questar regarding some testing information that was for the athletic directors. So we're just kind of moving forward. We have another meeting tomorrow, and then we'll start with our plan on Wednesday. I'd like to give you the monthly update about our social media footprint. And this again was in the report, but you can see that again, we're doing a pretty good job. These are a comparison group that we picked. We've kept this group consistent. And you can see in there again, we have large urbans and large suburbans and neighbors and smaller districts, but just kind of comparing ourselves to where we're at in terms of how we are communicating with our community. And then we have the section on most views and comments and shares and most clicks. And we've had some positive feedback on some important areas there, from Miss Mean moving over to West Sand Lake when Laura retires, and our Warrior Wellness Day. So very strong footprint. And again, I want to thank Brian Radowitz for his work and all the people supplying him all that good information. We had the capital project update in here, and here was our recommendation for where we go from here in terms of a timeline. Really kind of boils down to looking at our budget and how it's going to look this year. Really, as it says, our collective focus directing it towards that development process, especially with the uncertain and potentially neutral or decreasing state aid, as we really want to keep what we've built in terms of curriculum and program and our student support that we've really spent a lot of time building up. So we thought it was in the best interest when we took a look at it to really focus on that. And then from there is a new timeline, really picking up with the budget vote in May, determining scope, and then getting through all the necessary deadlines, focusing on a couple months of communication, and then a vote mid-October. Policy review. We talked with Jeff Honeywell. Jeff's going to come into executive session on the 22nd. He'll be here at 5:45. So note that for your calendars, of course. And we'll talk about a whole bunch of things, but or really just one thing, field trip policy, and have a conversation about what that will look like for us there as we go forward. I've been in communication with Jeff Brown. He knows where we're at with it. He was in no immediate hurry. He's going to hold off on accepting any new kids onto the trip until we get back to him. So we've been updating him and keeping him in the loop. And the last thing was just about the TRS contribution rate. So you can see that there. They came out with a final number, 9.8%, consistent with their bulletin that was from last November, where they're between 9.5 and 10. So, any questions on the report? Go right to our celebrations of success. All right, so once again, I want to thank Brian Radowitz for his work with our Celebration of Success video. Any questions on the video? All right. Next up, I asked Matt to just give the board an update regarding our Wellness Day.
Thanks, Jim. I'm going to share my screen as well. I just have some images to put up there. So let's get that going. So as a reminder, we had our Warrior Wellness Day a little over just about 2 weeks ago on Thursday, January 28th, and that was for all of our students in grades 6 through 12. The purpose of the day was to really provide students with an opportunity to do some much needed exploration, discussion, sharing around social emotional wellness and mental health. We know that that's certainly been a concern for students throughout this pandemic. Their mental health is at the forefront of just about anything you read regarding the struggles that kids are having on a day in, day out basis in their academic studies. So this was a chance to really put all of our attention in that. As you might remember, the day evolved in response to an amazing letter that the board received from one of our high school students. Overall, it was a tremendously successful day. Each school had a schedule for the students to follow. The day was entirely virtual, so our students did this all from home. As part of the day, the students viewed the movie Angst, which is a documentary about how teens deal with stress and anxiety, first-person accounts of what they go through on a day in, day out basis and how they deal with it. We had follow-up discussions after the movie to give students a chance to share their own thoughts. And additionally, we held a screening for parents in the evening, had about 20 parents participate in that showing as well. Most of the day was devoted to 2 breakout sessions. Students had to choose from almost 20 different opportunities for each of the 2 sessions. So there was lots of different ways that they could learn more about their own mental health and wellness. The sessions were facilitated by staff and students. So at the middle school, our staff led the students. They, in most cases, watched a pre-recorded video and then afterwards led a discussion. At the high school, we actually had that done by students, which was great to see. The variety of options was really impressive. When you have 20 different options to choose from, you get great variety. We had, topics range from building a wellness backpack to resiliency during COVID to improving mental health through exercise. As I mentioned, they were mostly recorded ahead of time, though we did have a few opportunities for live presentations. For example, at the high school, the students were able to learn about managing the stress of being a high-level athlete from AP grad Rudy Winkler. At the end of the day, the students provided feedback on the day. We received great praise on the day, as well as some very helpful suggestions from our students on the day as we think about where we can go next. Without question, we wish we could have done the day in person. It would have been better to have everyone sitting together in a room having a discussion. So doing it virtually certainly provides its own challenges. So that was probably the biggest feedback we got at both levels. But I think the important point is we're thinking about what's next. And that's what we wanted to make sure we got from this day, that this was not going to be a one-off event, that this was really the start of an ongoing discussion. I think our dedication to students' SEL, their social emotional wellness, has to continue. And since last week, we've already started to see some of those steps being taken. At the high school, the counseling staff has been working on brainstorming do-nows, which are ideas that can be implemented right away across the building to keep those conversations going. At the middle school, as you're seeing on the presentation, they shared their jams, which are their ways that they all individually deal with their own stress and anxieties. And those were shared throughout the building. After the break, the students in the middle school will be participating in short activities every Wednesday as part of Warrior Wellness Wednesdays. It's a mouthful. They will take part in brief meditative, writing, art, and discussion activities to support their mental health. So again, The idea being that we're not just doing one day, that this day was really the launch pad for many other things that will continue to be important, not just for the rest of this year, but this is something we want to keep going year after year. Mental health isn't related entirely to COVID. It's been exacerbated by it, but there's efforts that we need to keep taking. So we will keep this work going, well beyond just one day in January. Thank you.
Any questions on the Wellness Day?
I just want to say that, Matt, I think that's a really good job and a very important topic for students. And it's one that's often just passed over. So thank you for putting all that together.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much. It was well done and seemingly well received. So keep up the good work.
Well, as I mentioned back in January, I don't want to take the credit. This is there was a lot of work done by a lot of people in the buildings to make this. I get the praise for presenting it to all of you, but really the praise deserves to be to the staff and students who made this all work. And it was so well coordinated. It flowed beautifully throughout the day. So they did a great job in both buildings of having an action-packed full day for the students to take advantage of.
But please pass our thanks along.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, same here. My kids, both at the middle school and the high school level, got a lot out of it. And the parent webinar that was held in the evening was also really great. Linda Billy, I think is her last name. Yeah, did an amazing job moderating that, and having some of it. It's not an easy conversation to have. So I thought it was really well done, and both my kids had high praise for the activities of the day.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Matt. Next up is a strategic plan update, and I'm going to try and move through this, somewhat quickly. So stop me if there's any questions. But I thought it was important to bring this to the attention of the board. So the strategic plan is something I did when I first got here. So we started it in July of 2017. Really had a few different purposes. We wanted to see what was going on in the district. We wanted to engage our stakeholders in looking towards the future. And we wanted this work to help us as we establish the vision and the mission and the core values. All that stuff has now been done. I communicated it through presentations to the board. We were doing them monthly for a while. We met with the faculty and provided them the information, and we got out to the community. Largely was the Kiwanis Club. So again, this is 2017, and when we kind of took this diagram from Dr. Bernhardt and wanted to take the opportunity to make sure all of our arrows were going in the same direction, and that is all focused on our, as it says, vision and mission. Because I think the belief potentially was that we were doing a lot of good things, but they maybe necessarily weren't all pointing in the same direction. So this figure has been used and used and used again. I think most people in the district have seen it many times. And we want it to kind of continue to be an important piece for us. We've used it in the budget presentations in the past, I think in my summary one, because it really at the top of the slide says is an alignment of our resources, right? We know we have a finite amount of both financial and human resources, and we want to make sure that we are all working towards the same thing, and that is our purpose. And we, I think, now know that the every student every day hashtag AP every student every day, and our meeting the needs of and creating opportunities for every student every day has really become something that has taken a hold. And I find that to be a very positive thing and something that we worked hard to create and brand and make sure we are focusing on. I've said to people, it's nice, even when people email me or call me to voice their concern or complaint, they throw the hashtag at me. And so it's kind of, I guess, it's working when they're using it against you. They say, you say this, but do you mean it? And it's great. I absolutely love it when they say that, because it was meant to be what we did on a daily basis. So these were the areas that we studied. Started with looking at the process, developed the goals, and then we took a look at these areas: enrollment, our academic data, transportation, our exceptional needs, the finances, the facilities, and then athletics and extracurriculars. Took time to go through all these, meet with the supervisors, meet with the people on the ground in the areas that we were focusing on, and come up with an actual presentation. And we did that. And I did that, and then came into a final document, into a final presentation that we did to the board. So that's kind of where we left off, right? The final report was a summary of those presentations, and the findings were identified as a result of them. So we did the presentations themselves. The final report had a summary of that. And then those identified findings were things that we found that were true and consistent within the district. And then the last bullet is really what we're focused on tonight, is the potential initiatives. So once we said, okay, here's the things that we're doing well, and here's the things that we found from this time, purposely wanted to develop initiatives that were broad and that were open-ended. We purposely did not put a timeline on them. We wanted them to just be kind of something we were continually working on and checking back on a regular basis. And I'm pleased to say that's what we've been doing. We reviewed these at admin meetings. We've had meetings with our principals about them, and these are very much still kind of out there in terms of what we do. So we have a lot of them that came from that final report. So I just wanted to provide you with an update on them. The slides will give you the actual initiative that was determined and part of that final report. On the top part, you'll see the goal, right? So goal number one, these first few all focus on the goal of graduating our students college and career ready. So the first initiative we looked at was exploring options to provide internet to our students without access. This is something that has been a major thing. We've done a lot of work on it. It's one of the few items we actually have designated on our spreadsheet to track it as complete. It started with a pilot of something called Kajit, where we had hotspots that we were handing out. We did a lot of gathering of data through our first day sheets. We did a survey of our middle school students. We had a really good indication of where our students were in terms of internet access at home. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. So it went from something that was maybe a goal and an initiative of something out in the distance somewhere to something that became very real and very necessary. Fortunately, we had done that research, so we knew where we stood. We had done some pilot actions, so we knew how to get there. And we're pretty set that right now our students have access at home. And if they don't, we're able to provide it. We currently have 200 hotspots available to us. And those are out, not all of them, those are out and about, and our families are using them. And as late as, I believe the governor stated the state, you've seen a movement both within the state and nationally to address this issue. So we're a little bit ahead of the curve, I think, on this. And again, something that we deem as being complete. Matt, if you have anything to jump in, don't hesitate, because a lot of these are obviously in your area. So our second one was to address the needs of our youngest learners. We wanted to research options to facilitate the high quality pre-kindergarten and or preschool programs. There was a concern when we did this that there were not preschool or pre-kindergarten programs available to our students anymore. That one of the unintended consequences of the bad old days financially is that a lot of those programs had been eliminated in our district. Fortunately, we were able to determine that wasn't true, that our students actually do have quite a high number of potential places to get their preschool or their pre-kindergarten. So that was good news because we had talked about bringing that in district, right? And beginning our own pre-K program and our own preschool program. And how would we do that? And spacing and staffing, that obviously comes with a cost. So it's an important thing and a cost we would have incurred if we felt we needed to, but we didn't need to because it was going on in our community. The big thing for us is we've now focused on trying to improve those relationships between our parents so that as they bring us their kindergartner, there's more of a clear understanding of what is expected by the school district of their student, of their child, and also to work more directly with our providers so that we're kind of systematizing and making it a consistent program because there's so many of them, as we found out, that we wanted to somehow ensure that they were getting some feedback from us about where we stood in terms of what we needed from the students when they arrived to us on their first day. One thing I will say, and it plays into a lot of these, is we've had a little bit of a pause in some of these because of the pandemic. So we were going pretty good speed. Kara Harrington, when she was here with us, did a lot of work on this. She left and went to another district. So that was one kind of pause. And then the COVID situation has kind of pushed this one temporarily to the side, but we're looking to redevelop this, use our outstanding kindergarten team and getting them involved maybe, and using some of the experts on the ground to really take this and improve those relationships. Our next one was exploring the possibility of increasing the high school credit courses at the middle school. And this is one that is also actually marked complete. We had many conversations with Rob and at that time, Josh Gella. And we had really came to the conclusion we had two options here. One was to kind of go along this direction of increasing high school credit courses, or two, focusing more on the basic skills, the fundamental skills of literacy and math in our RTI program, as well as, excuse me, as well as exposure and electives. We chose the latter, and that was really for two reasons. Our middle school, and I give all the credit to Rob. In the time I left in between when I came back, the number of courses that were added in high school options and credit courses and electives was phenomenal, especially given the situation in the district financially. So the district was actually, the middle school was actually much further along this area than anticipated. They are offering a lot of opportunities for high school courses and credits, and they're doing it in a really positive way. They really thought their focus needed to be on those skills, the literacy skills, the math skills. And again, the mission of the middle school in general is to expose kids and get them an opportunity to see things, experience things, take electives. And that's kind of where we focused. So this is another one that's complete because we feel like we're not going down this road, but focusing on a different area. Next two go together, and they deal with the high school and the potential to increase the rigor. This one is about early dismissal and late arrival. This is something that has really taken on since Heath has come to us. And I know it's something that he believes strongly in. Right now, the goal or the foundation is being set to do these type of things. And that comes largely from the decrease in study halls and the increases in classes. So we're trying to build a foundation and do this very purposely and systematically. So in order to do that, you have to have less kids in study hall and you have to have more kids, more courses to offer students, or else there's really no reason to eliminate early dismissal and late arrival. So something we very much want to continue that conversation with. Again, the pandemic kind of slowed us down, but we feel like this is something we're ready to take on. Along with the next one, which was is the potential to increase the rigor by requiring students to take these courses in their senior year. So essentially using what is required by the state as a floor and not a ceiling, but making the Averill Park diploma stronger and more stringent than what is required. Again, this is something that we feel strongly about, something I'm hoping we'll be bringing to you as we move forward, but something that has been a little bit slowed down by the pandemic. We have added courses just in the time Heath has been here. By last count, we were plus 12 in the amount of courses we've offered. So again, the decrease in study hall, the increase in courses, and the ability to have opportunities for students to do things is being worked in over time, building that capacity so that this is an option as we move forward. The next one, increasing our partnerships with higher education and looking at associate degrees and increasing pathways. Again, it kind of goes along with the previous two, and it's something that we are really, really, really happy with where we are with this and where we're headed. We have relationships with Hudson Valley, working on an associate's degree program with Excelsior through Questar, Schenectady Community College, Columbia Green Community College. We did the work through our Questar partners and Skodak and East Greenbush on Vicarious Visions. So we've done a lot in this area. We've increased the number of college and the high school courses. So this is something, again, that's very near and dear to Heath's heart, and I know to Matt's heart as well. So I think you're going to see this, again, continue to build and flourish as we move forward. Certainly something, again, impacted by the pandemic, but something that we will be working towards as we move forward. Each of these three goals had a step of developing a team associated with them. So this was kind of a college and career ready team to monitor progress. this has taken a few different directions. And when we first looked at this, we focused, ironically, after Matt's last presentation on the Wellness Day, on social emotional learning. This was really the focus when I came back to the district, and we've really worked on that at all levels and providing opportunities for students. And now we're starting to get more into using the data, collecting the data, having the data, and then being able to analyze that data. We thought we had to purchase a product. We've looked into some stuff with New York State vendors that are on contract, but we realized that what we have in Naviance, which is a program we already have, actually has the capability to do this, to do some college tracking data, and we're starting to enter that now. So again, something that is very much alive and well and is in progress. And again, it's something I know Matt and Heath both share an interest and a passion in doing this. Scheduling options, schedules kind of, you get into a rut sometimes if you do this year what you did last year because you did it last year, and you did that one because you did it that way the year before, and then the year before. Fortunately, in Averill Park, that's not a problem. Sometimes it's the opposite. We tend to always keep trying to go and improve, and sometimes you got to slow things down. We've done a lot of work over the time since 2017 on the schedules. If you look at the 3 levels, the elementary school is now on a 6-day schedule. That is new. Through the contractual negotiations, we added 15 minutes to our school day, and that was something that we were able to use, and again, includes some of the social emotional learning in there. The middle school, after a very, very long time of being in block scheduling, has moved to period scheduling. And the feedback so far is very positive there. And the high school has also, through the contractual negotiations, added time to their day. And again, that was invested largely in advisory, which was that connection to social emotional learning, which was mentioned earlier. So something that is very much out there, in progress, but more on the complete end. We'll continue to look at things, continue to fine tune things. Of course, scheduling is impacted by FTE. So if we're in a budget cutting mode the next year or two, then the schedule is impacted by that, certainly. Position of or the creation of a position to really focus on enhancing our business and education partnerships, something we've looked at. We currently have a course at the high school. Our goal there is to increase the number of kids who can actually partake in this course. It's a limitation on a few fronts: transportation and getting kids where they need to. And then of course, probably more than any other goal or initiative, COVID has really put this a little bit, not say to a grinding halt by any means, but has slowed down the process that we were able to do in terms of placing kids in internships. So we did start in the beginning with some of this. If I remember correctly, ironically, the one we had was a student in a healthcare profession. So we've had to kind of to pump the brakes a little bit on this one, but we will continue to go this direction. Caitlin Gerke is now running that course at the high school. She does a great job with it, and I know is really into expanding it and exploring it. It is something that you'll see when Michael talks about the Questar budget that we do pay for, a service that Jim Church runs in terms of coordinating opportunities for our students in the capital region for things like this. So we've invested in that as well. The potential for renovating existing spaces. The next goal has a bunch of these that are capital project related, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The renovating existing spaces were some of those collaborative opportunities. We have done this through some other means, and Michael's been very creative and forward thinking in terms of how to use money in our budget to make this stuff happen. And we've tried to do that. If you look at the renovations at the high school and the cafeteria, the gym lobby right outside the main gym at the high school, the collaborative type spaces and the furniture we purchased at the middle school, we've really added a lot of these type of centers within our building and have tried to do that in a creative way within the general budget when possible. So again, something that I would certainly say is in progress and that we would like to continue. This one is complete. This is the multi-year program. Something we were not doing a tremendously good job in is having a schedule for our courses that would kind of cycle through and run in a predictable manner. The high school has done this. So our courses are on cycles now, and it's an opportunity for our kids to kind of know what's coming so they can plan their schedules a little bit better. I think kind of thinking more of a college model in terms of knowing what's offered in odd years versus even years, those type of things. And then certainly this one is a huge one for us, enhance and improve our RTI, or response intervention system. It's a huge initiative. We've done a lot of work here. We've talked to the board a lot about this. Hopefully something when you hear those letters now, RTI, you have some informed idea of what we're doing, or else we haven't communicated well, because it's been a huge thing for us. We've added administrative oversight to it. We have a new RTI plan. The middle school, as the slide talks about, did tremendous work using grant money and actually in part of a grant, non-funded, and then really developing a system there. Something we're very proud of, the strides we've made with our RTI program. And we think is something that's continuing to get better and will continue to improve. We had a meeting today with Camille regarding special education. And if you're doing RTI right, then it plays into special education numbers too, because you're getting kids the help they need, and hopefully at an earlier age. We move into goal number 2 and put these 3 on the same slide. They talk about the connection, school community connection, looked at a high school community center, maker spaces, and lights at a tennis court. These are all part of the capital project in one way, shape, or form or another. And unfortunately are on hold right now. So we did push these, but didn't quite get there. Next one is the creation of a district-wide student engagement team, excuse me. This is something that we're actively working on. It's pretty much in more of the infancy stages. We really need to build a system and then start to collect the data. So this is something that is right in Matt's wheelhouse. We've kind of pulled him away from this type of stuff and more of the curriculum side of things with all that's going on. But this is something we see ourselves getting back to and getting into as we move forward. The last initiative under this goal was the value of expanding the community education program. And that was really going to be done in an effort to increase family and student engagement. This one is one that is marked complete. Really happy, obviously, with the work that our co-directors, Nancy Bush and Julie Ernst, have done. We've offered more free programs, which we wanted to do. At one point, that was not really being done at all. But, people who would approach us about, I wanted to offer a free service to the community. Can we do that? So we've been able to do some of those programs, add some free programs, try and expand our offerings. And we feel like that is certainly doing well. Those significant changes are really made back in 17, 18, and have continued through Julie and Nancy's hard work. Our third goal was ensuring student growth through the utilization of data. As you know, we've now gone and taken this goal off the table because we said it's now been institutionalized, which is a nice thing because of the 4 initiatives on here. 3 of them are complete. So that's consistent with what we had told you earlier. District-wide data team to monitor progress. That has really been the focus of our DLT, our district learning team. So it's not, the D doesn't stand for data in that case, but they are really incorporating the data analysis in their work that they do on their monthly agenda. They are doing a lot of stuff with that. The BLTs are then following that. The ALT is that structure we built. It is really doing a nice job of using the data. And we do feel like it's been, as I said, institutionalized. No longer needs to be a standalone goal. The next one is the value of creating an RTI team to utilize that data to inform decisions. This happens to be complete as well. The K-12 plan is being implemented. That plan included a lot of this type of stuff in terms of the using data to inform decisions. We do now data meetings at all 3 levels. So this is something we figure we can mark as complete. Again, we'll continue doing it, but it is now part of just what we do. Our universal screening assessment is one that is in progress. We did add to this and we've made great strides here. We have universal screening now in K-8. That was done in 2018-19. We need to revisit this. It's certainly an area we want to expand upon in terms of getting these universal screening options, both at the kindergarten level for our incoming students, but then at the certain checkpoints throughout the students' educational career. One of the main issues is to really do this right, we have to invest in a software program or a program that'll help us do it correctly the assessments themselves, and that's big money. So we've kind of slowed that down again because of the pandemic. And again, we didn't want to rush into anything. We didn't want to just throw money at a problem. So we're trying to do this kind of very deliberately and purposefully as we look to continue to do it. And again, it's something that's on Matt's radar. And the last thing is the means of improving our internal systems and our capacity. We've built a whole system called AP Inquiry that does this through, again, Matt's experience with Tableau. And that is now being rolled out. We're using that. Great work by Doug Kramer. It's a name that you don't really hear a lot because he's always in the background and just does ridiculously good work on the back end of things, and creates pretty much everything we do, from our health screening survey to the quarantine survey, or some of the things that you might see or hear, to everything else, reporting wise. It's all Doug in the background. And he's just done a phenomenal job with that. And Kristen Card, who most of you know, has always kind of been the face of that. They work great together. And that has made great strides here too. So we've marked this one as complete because we feel like we've built that capacity. So there is the update. Hopefully it wasn't too long. I did want to share it with you, and at least, especially for the newer board members, let you know it existed and that we were working towards it. And for the people who've been on the board, or were back on the board in 17, 18, to know that we had not forgotten about it. And it was something that was still alive and well, that we weren't, didn't put it on a shelf and never touch it again, which is, I think, the fear with these things. We wanted to make sure that you knew that was not what happened. Any questions on that?
I have one. For the adding the courses, to fill the day, eliminating the late arrival or early dismissal at the high school level, and I'm assuming that that relates more to the juniors and seniors. How does that affect the kids that are attending the Questar programs for the career-based training and such? Like if you add required classes, how do they fit that into their schedule?
Good question. I don't know, honestly. We haven't gotten to that level of detail. I think those courses would be, well, I don't know, honestly. I would leave that to Heath and the admin team there, as well as the counselors, in terms of the details of that. But it'd be something certainly to consider, obviously. So.
I think that was a lot of good work, because there were so many items you said that you considered complete. So thank you for the whole team for keeping your eye on this, and then the progress towards it has been quite a lot. So thank you.
No problem.
I agree, Jesse. I think it's a great way to show the community also all of the enhancements that the administration is making on a shoestring, and all the different ways that they're providing better program opportunities for our kids, within, the working structure. I think it's great. Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll conclude the superintendent's report. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. That brings us to item number 3, public comment. The community members seeking to provide questions or comment to the Board of Education should email them to the district clerk. So I don't think we received any for today.
No, we do not have any.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're
just
welcome.
want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So, so if there are comments that are received by the end of this meeting, we will make sure they are distributed to the entire board and they are logged in as part of this meeting. Item number 4 is the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Megan,
seconded by Peter. That's what I saw. Sorry. I would like to start the discussions part with a big congratulations to Linda. Linda is an integral part of the Board of Education team, and her work mostly flies under the radar screen, but we would be really nowhere without her because she keeps us up to date. She puts all the good information onto the portal and she keeps us organized. But beyond that, she is very friendly and very helpful. And to me, her caring personality is much beyond compare. So Linda, I will miss you, But I'm so happy for you and your retirement. May you enjoy a long and healthy one with your growing family.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you.
You deserve it.
Thank you.
So,
Linda,
Other-
I'd second that also. As long as I've been on the board, which seems like forever at times, you've always been there for the board and supported us. And we really appreciate it. You will be missed.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much.
yeah.
Congratulations, Linda.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you.
Congratulations, Linda.
Thank you, Megan.
Also want to wish congratulations to our teachers who are retiring. We're losing some really good educators within the district, but I hope that that they are, gonna have a good time in their retirement. So best of wishes to all of our retirees.
Yes. Chris, did you have something? You kind of went on and off mute.
I'm good. Linda doesn't get off that easily. I'll talk during board report.
Peter, did you have something else?
Yeah, I think the teachers especially will be missed. My daughters have had almost all of them, and they really are stellar teachers and a cornerstone of many of the programs. I've had contact with them even outside the high school at the college, and enjoyed a really great professional relationship with them. I wish them luck.
Yes, definitely. Two other things. I wanted to just extend a thank you to the Averill Park Community Orchestra for their donation to the Algonquin Middle School Music Department. And I also wanted to thank the Troy Sand and Gravel Company for their new scholarship they're putting in place. It's a wrestling scholarship. So thank you to those two entities for supporting our district. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, on to item number 5, approved to adopt the professional development plan for the 2020 through 2021 school year. Do I have a motion? Chris, thank
Chris.
you. Megan, seconds. Discussion.
I don't have any questions on this, only just to say that I think that they put together another very comprehensive plan with the same strategies that go towards the student development, going towards the professional development. So I think it's a really good program. So thank you. Good work.
Thank you. I'll acknowledge Kate Dorgan, our Director of Teacher and Student Supports, is the one who chairs our Professional Development Committee and did a nice job of getting people together and getting that feedback to develop the plan. So thank you very much.
Yes, I would echo Megan's comments on it. It's a job well done, and in a particularly difficult year to get something like this done and to actually focus on, your self-development when you're trying to, teach your students in many different ways and keep the buildings open no matter what type of faculty or staff you hear at the school. So I think that's helpful that you guys, and commendable that you were able to pull that off in this environment with so many other balls in the air. So any other comments, questions? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 6, the review of the transportation and interscholastic athletic budgets.
Hey, Matt, can you give me control of the screen? please?
Yep, you should already have that. You should have a
Okay.
share screen button.
Okay. All right. Okay. See, you can see the screen okay? The transportation budget? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. All right, so moving on to our next two topics, budget areas, transportation, then we'll do athletics. So once again, as I've said in the past, we're just going to go through the items that have, there's change, talk about them, provide you some understanding of why there's changes, what we're proposing to do, and just bear with me as I trying to get some information available for myself here to talk about this topic. Sorry, that was one part I didn't open up for myself. Are you still seeing the transportation budget, right? Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, we're all on mute.
All right. Yeah, so I look back for the head nods. All right. So the first item is actually a reduction in the bus driver salaries. So year to year, there's actually, you would say, well, geez, you think because we're always saying contractual increase, contractual increase. So we usually see some sort of small uptick in the budget code. But what was happening here is we've had a lot of situations where we've had bus drivers retire and we're achieving some breakage. We're also seeing some folks moving from time to time to other districts. It's been a concern of ours, particularly in the transportation department, where we have we feel like a salary schedule that doesn't. If you go back to what we talked about in the budget guidelines, salaries and contracts that are designed to be able to recruit and retain staff. And we feel like, especially in the transportation area, it's very, very competitive right now for bus drivers and mechanics. There are skilled labor positions, with other districts. So it's a challenge that we're having, and we did achieve some change in the last contract where we were able to place people, new hires on step 5. But even at step 5, we're still below, most of the districts, and definitely the ones surrounding us. We lost folks to Berlin and East Greenbush in transportation recently. So so that's why. So if you're wondering, well, why would we see a reduction? That's because we've achieved breakage. There's some benefit to that, obviously, but the underlying cause of that in some part is it's a sort of a negative in terms of the goals to recruit and retain staff, and that is really very important in this area, because we've actually recruited, we've trained, and then we've lost bus drivers to other districts. So that's not good when we go all through that process and then we lose them. So that's something we got to address as we go through the negotiations process with CSEA. So this is this is kind of the regular routine contractual increases in the supervisor and mechanics areas for those increases. In the bus attendants, we had to add a couple bus attendants this year in 2021 that actually weren't planned at the beginning of the year, only because we had to develop additional runs because of the social distancing. So we had runs before that would have utilized a bus attendant, But then when we had to move some of those students off of those runs and put them on another runs, creating another run, IEPs that required these students to have bus attendants on those buses. So we added an extra FTE. And frankly, we don't know if we won't still be doing some level of social distancing and transportation when we return to school in the fall. So we are, accommodating for that in our budget at this point with the increase. Mechanics overtime. So if you were to go back through, and this is why I give you, it's why I look at it too. I give you multiple years of the budget history to look at, is so that you get a sense of like where was the budget underspent, where was the budget overspent in the previous year. I tend to look at the previous year as a pretty good representation. So if I go down to a few pages here, I look at the prior year as a good representation. That's the current year where we're at, of what the trend is. But in 2019, 1920 budget year, it's really because we had a quarter of the year where we weren't running transportation in a traditional fashion. It's really hard in some places to make that comparison. I mean, you can see we actually underspent the budget last year by $238,000. Well, that's because, again, a quarter of the year we didn't run. So there was a lot of things that the buses didn't have to be repaired. We didn't spend on fuel. We didn't do a lot of things. We didn't have parts, and we didn't have to do some of the preventative maintenance and things that we might otherwise have done. If you go back to the year before that, which is probably a better representation of the $3.1 million budget, we only spent about 44,000 of it, which is pretty tight budgeting. It's kind of goes back to what I was talking about when we talked about buildings and grounds, some really tight budgeting. So when I look at the trend for what we call the sports trips and field trips, the trend has been greater. And I'll give you some of the examples of why. So why is this? And it's really, if you look at bus driver extra, what we call the bus driver extra and overtime, those two codes, a lot of the same types of transportation events happen through those. The field trips and sports trips for our interscholastic athletics. The bus driver extra is where we have mechanics and where we're pulling them out of the garage because we have limited numbers of subs and we're utilizing them to drive. So those kinds of things. But it's kind of a mixture in those two codes of different utilization of bus drivers when we need to pull mechanics to run, and other folks that are qualified to run our buses. So I give you some examples of the things that we've added that are coming, that are causing those pressures. Because the bus driver extra too, we have some of the late bus in there. Mark gave me a list because I said, geez, I know I have a sense of what some of these things are, but let's kind of plot them out. So some of the things that we've added over the past few years, and this I'd say this goes back probably 3 years or so, maybe 4, where we've added the construction class going to job sites during the day. So we actually have our construction technology group out there, and you've seen the presentations. They're building sheds and they're building decks, and they're actually doing on-site projects at places. Well, we have to get those students to those job sites, and we have midday construction class bus runs that we've added. We've added lots of CSEA work study programs that are going out. We're running the backpack program, which is additional transportation expenditures. Sports shuttles, bowling every day in season, golf every day. The swims team we added the swim team, and then the daily shuttle run from Algonquin to the high school. So those are some of the things. And then we added the late bus run to give us a total of 8 late buses. And we did that because we want students to have opportunities, obviously, to be after school for their, clubs and after school activities, also to get extra help, academic support and things like that. But what was happening is, again, our district is so big, 100 square miles. Students, even with 7 buses and splitting it up into zones, were on the bus a very long time. So it was making it difficult to, get students home in a reasonable manner. I'm getting the admit. Am I in control of the whole meeting? So do I need to admit Ann? Am I in control of the whole? Should I go ahead?
I get it. I got you.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Okay. Welcome, Ann. Are you there? All right. So any questions on that? Because this is where we're achieving some savings in the bus driver salaries because of those things I mentioned, but we also are, we're providing more opportunities for students, and those, are because of, one of the big drivers of this cost, and I'll talk about it, how we don't really want mechanics driving. We don't really have a choice at this point, but there is an important component, sort of a linkage between what's happening with our mechanics driving and the importance of our bus replacement plan. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. The only other thing that's increasing in the actual transportation top line is the pricing for our bus route management software. That's through TransFinder. Just a small increase in the license pricing. Okay, sorry. So it's broken out. Transportation is broken out by the actual transportation part of it, and then the garage operations, maintenance of the garage itself, insurance, and things like that. Our custodial cleaner, who doubles as a bus driver, that's contractual increase. And then the building equipment and repair. I think it's really, really important. I was talking to Jim about it today, and sort of Mark and I talk about this all the time. Mark Primo and I. We have facilities now that are mostly about 25 years old. These facilities were built in the mid 90s to the early 2000s. The bus garage. We have a bus wash bay in the bus garage. We are constantly in that code, that building equipment and repair code. I mean, I could go back and get you information on the cost, but year after year, we're trying to maintain a 25-year-old bus wash facility. And I'll say, well, you might say, geez, that seems why do we have a bus wash facility? Well, it's really important. It's important for safety, so that the buses are clean, that bus drivers can see, that the buses are visible. Particularly, I'm talking about the wintertime mainly, but it is important year round. And it's also important for maintaining the long life of buses. So because road salt and debris, body corrosion is our biggest problem in maintaining the buses. Our folks can keep those motors running forever. Our biggest problem is, the frames and the body start to corrode just from the tough winters that we have here. So the bus wash bay is an important component of it, but we're constantly repairing it. It's getting more and more difficult, as you can imagine. It's a 25-year-old operation to maintain it, to even get parts for it. But that's not mainly that's important for you to understand, because it's part of the context of what is happening and what we try to incorporate into the capital project, because we have 44 garage doors that have 44 motors and 44 systems for, raising and lowering those doors. And after 25 years, they are failing. You can maintain and repair them and do preventative maintenance, but it's just a product of the life cycle of any piece of equipment. that is utilized over and over again like that. So the replacement of those doors was included in Proposition 1 as an essential item in the capital project. And what we're doing here is just trying to, Mark got some information from the company that we utilize to do some door work, and just to sort of fix the guts of the one of the doors is about $4,100. So what we did just for preventative measures is to make sure that we have at least a couple spots in there, and it may not be the full replacement, but we need funds available to do that kind of work in the event that one or more of these doors break during the year, until hopefully we can get back to a successful project vote. So that's why we've included that in there. Again, it's we're dealing with older equipment. The roof of the transportation facility, part of a large section of that was part of that project as well. It's a very big building with a flat roof, and it's 25 years old. So overall, the transportation budget would increase about 1.5%, which is pretty minimal increase overall. We're not increasing it in any of the other areas. We've looked at them. We're like I said, these are the budget numbers that basically have been sort of static for the last few years. And if you go back for that, to look at that 18-19 as a real good comparative to what the real costs are to run that transportation operation, when you're down to about $50,000 left over in a $3.1 million budget, you're cutting it pretty close. I think it's pretty solid budgeting, for transportation. Trying to think, Mark, what are some? Oh, the lifts. Yeah. So that's another thing. That didn't even make it to. We included some information in there, in your packet about the lifts, and that's, I think, at the very end, because we have in-ground lifts in the bus garage. There's just one, right, Mark? Just the single lift, right? You can just give me and I can't see it, so I'll assume you're saying yes. We're having significant issues with that, where there's decaying around the perimeter of it, concrete issues. This is the cost. I mean, the cost of replacing one of those in-ground lifts is pretty significant. A few years ago, the board supported us buying a portable lift that it works very well, but it's no substitute for the in-ground lift, and it's a pretty big project to replace one of those. But these are the kinds of things we've got to be able to start planning for. Certainly, it would have been nice for this project, but in the next project, we've got to deal with some of these things, because a lot of what we're repairing in this building budget code here is those kinds of things. Oh, sorry. Lift repairs, other types of equipment that we need to repair that's building related. All right. Any questions on that so far? About 1.5% increase? No. Okay. Again, I gave you some information on the doors, and you have the multiple uses, the year-to-date budget for transportation. All right, so let's see. All right, now I'm gonna stop sharing that screen, and I'm gonna talk to you about the bus replacement plan. And let's see. Why am I not seeing this? I have to put it up there. Screen 2. Show all. There we go. Sorry. Okay. So you're seeing the bus replacement plan now? Oh, that's the pickup. That's not it. You're seeing this. Well, let me just, since it's there, it's going to be talked about anyway, so then I can dispatch with it. And, all right, so you're seeing now pickup replacement plan right here? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So there's two components of what we would want to propose for a proposition to the voters. This is pretty common. Sometimes we have just buses. Sometimes we'll have grounds equipment in buses where we would place a tractor or something of that nature. And in this case, it's replacing a 2011 Ram 2500 pickup truck that's used also for snow plowing and other hauling and things like that. So we'd be recommending the purchase, including that in the proposition of a 2022 Chevy 3500 rack truck with a snow plow and a lift gate. Now that purchase, like I said, will replace the 2011 Ram 2500 pickup truck that's been in service for the last 9 years, used for snow removal, salting, sanding, heavy, load hauling and such. We've hauled our portable generators. When we only have generators at the high school and middle school. When we have issues, and trust me, in Averill Park, I guess we have weak trees, because when the wind blows, we lose our trees and we lose our power. It seems like the elementary schools are constantly losing power. We rent portable generators from a place down in Manans. I think it's Manans, or down in Albany. This is the truck we use to haul those up here. The 2011 Ram that we'd like to replace. It's got about 72,000 miles, just a little over, and it's had a lot of work done to nurse it along to keep it going. And what this also does is, why I mentioned about our in-house mechanic labor hours, is because our mechanics are working on trying to maintain this vehicle, and they've done a great job. But there becomes a point at which they're spending a lot of time, the time that actually should be spent, better spent on, maintaining our school bus fleet. And it's sort of that, I think, that where it becomes the chasing good money after bad, where your investment in a vehicle that just is not ever able to be fully repaired and functional the way it should be, it's at its useful life end. And we know that it has very little resale value, and particularly, if you know about plowing, the stress that puts on vehicles, and this is one of our main plow vehicles, is pretty significant. It's very stressful on a vehicle. So where you might say, it's only got 72,600 miles, boy, that's not that many miles, but they're hard miles. And our plowing isn't driveway plowing, it's big parking lot and roadway plowing. So it's pretty heavy duty stuff, with some major, snowstorms and constant plowing. So that vehicle. And so we gave you some pictures. We always like to provide you some pictures so you have just, a visual sense of really, what are we talking about? This is pretty common on this vehicle, where we have rust and decay on the body. Inside and internal, this is actually the frame of the vehicle. And then, the interior, because after all those years, you start to get wear and tear internally as well on the vehicle.
I don't think we're seeing that on the screen, Michael.
You're not seeing the pickup truck replacement plan?
I am, but I thought you were flipping to the pictures and we're not seeing the pictures. Is anybody else, and it's just my connection that's bad?
No.
I'm not seeing it on the Zoom call. I actually have my documents up on another computer. So you're seeing me look over because I'm looking over here.
There?
Yeah, now
Yeah,
I
you
see the
can.
inside of the truck. Yep. And we
That pic-
appreciate that you shared them with us in advance because it's
Yep.
helpful too. Yeah.
You seeing this picture now? The corrosion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Now we're seeing them
Okay. All right.
and
So
clicking through. So that's good.
yeah, yeah. So we buy this. We propose there's a contract with Onondaga County. We've actually worked with their contracts before. We piggyback on that, which would satisfy the state, state rules on competitive bidding for this type of vehicle. We don't anticipate much of a resale on the 2,000, maybe $4,000. It has low salvage value because it's not in good shape. And so I'll show you then and because it's not a vehicle that's built at this point, this kind of gives you an idea of what the replacement vehicle would look like. Of course, it would be white because by the way, you'll see how we call it the white fleet because I think other than this Ram, all of the non-school bus equipment is white. So that's why it's called the white fleet. So it would be similar to this, a rack truck with a lift. Why is that important? The lift, he allows the men who are working to load and unload, palletize, types of machinery, snow blowers, whatever it is that they're putting up into those trucks, a less stressful work situation. And we always talk about making sure that they have the right equipment. It kind of goes back to, we had a situation in the bus garage, and you don't think about it that much as it's happening, sort of this repetitive stress type injuries and things like that. It's important to provide the right equipment. We had a situation in the bus garage where we had somebody was working on a bus a while back and fell off a ladder. The ladder slipped and injured his knee. And we realized then at that point, you got to have the right equipment. So if we're going to have people working solo, and even if they're not in those types of situations, we have to have the right ladder. So we sought out a ladder similar to like what you might see at Home Depot, sort of those ladders that are fixed and aren't a ladder, more of like a stage to work on. You've heard me say this over and over again through the years. I just think it's really important that if we're going to ask people to go out and do whatever the labor is, whatever the job is, we should be, within a reasonable, cost factor, be providing them with the right tools to do the job. And their recommendation is if we're going to replace that vehicle, we should do it with something that can plow and also is good for heavy hauling and also provides a more suitable loading apparatus, which is the automatic lift key. Okay. So this is just the we wanted you to have the specs on that vehicle. It gives you some more information on it. This is a inventory of the current inventory of the white fleet, and so we have 4 vehicles that are used by the maintenance department. You can see there's a 2001, which is a refurbished bus that it was one of our school buses at one point. That's used by one of our maintenance men, and these are basically like rolling shops. There's tools and equipment inside those, things to work on, all the skilled trades throughout the district, HVAC, carpentry, all the types of things that you might have need done throughout the district to maintain our facilities, or small remodel jobs and things of that nature, flooring work, roof repairs, minor roof repairs. And so that's this 2001 and these 2007, 2008. Those are, sort of our rolling maintenance operations. The transportation department has their own Chevy 3500 pickup truck because they utilize that for plowing out. They're responsible for plowing out the bus turnarounds. And we have a number of bus turnarounds throughout the district because we have a lot of deadhead roads, spots where the district ends and buses can't without a turnaround, would have to make much longer runs to get back, circulate back into the district. We have, of course, the one we're looking at replacing. We have a Dodge minivan that's used. It's an older minivan used by our messenger, and he's also the courier. It's a messenger courier. He transports food inventory from the stock to the various buildings throughout the district. And then Grounds has a 2014 Ram 3500, a 2016 Ram 1500, which is the supervisor's vehicle that does not have a plow on it. And then we have our heavy duty plow truck, which is the International 4300, and then another Ram 3500 for plowing. We do, and we talked about it when we gave the board some pretty detailed information back when we bought the big heavy plow truck. We do our own plowing. That's when I worked in Greenwich, which is a smaller district, and we had it was all on one campus. We actually contracted out the plowing because they were really they were right there, reliable. We were their first and main priority, and everything was on one campus. So it was a little bit different scenario. We could never have a situation where it would be cost effective. We actually got pricing from some vendors back then, and it would be unbelievably expensive to contract out the plowing. And also what we lose there is we lose the constant ability to maintain the facilities like our folks do, the personal attention to it. But not only that, we have multiple buildings that have to be plowed on an ongoing basis. You can't rely on a private contractor to give you that kind of attention. So just so you understand, it seems like, well, you have several plow vehicles here. Yes, and we need several plow vehicles here because they're constantly in action when we have these snowstorms. And I imagine they're prepping for tomorrow as we speak. Any questions on our inventory and what our goal is? So I think if you look at it, we have a plan where we try to, in some fashion, much like the buses, much like anything else that we have that has a useful life, it's used up over time, to replace these in a systematic way. So we have older vehicles, but we try to extend the life as long as possible. But this one's getting up there, and it's time for us to make the move to a newer vehicle. Any questions on this? Okay. And so when I talk to you, when I can actually find it and get it up in front of you, the bus replacement plan, you'll find that the bus replacement plan, the buses that we're recommending to be included in the proposition, plus the rack truck, are actually about $875,000 or so in total. And so our borrowing will actually be less than the debt service that will be dropping off. So we'll have, and likely there'll be a lower interest rate too, because we are still in a really positive interest rate environment for our purchases such as this. We were at the 1.19% last time when we went out for the buses. So it's going to be less expensive than the debt that's dropping off. So again, just to recap, want to replace the 2011 Ram 2500 with a 2022 Ram 3500 rack truck. It'll have a snowplow and lift gate. That I'll just point out, and you had the information. While the buses, as part of the proposition, will have state aid, this type of purchase is not aidable as a transportation expense. So just so you're aware. So if we were able to finance this vehicle, do it over the 5 years, we'd have it in the same borrowings, the buses, the 5 years. The interest expense on that, we're estimating is only going to be a couple grand, because I think 1.25 might even be a little bit higher than what we will actually end up getting, but that gives you a good approximation of what I think the cost would be. Questions there? All right. Let me get rid of this. Let's see. Yeah. Bus replacement. Okay. Okay, so as the main part of the proposition, obviously, is our bus replacement, and we have about 70 buses in the fleet. We try to get these buses, and with the help of our the mechanics and all the good work they do, with the way that we buy these buses now, with the long-term 10-year warranty, and with the plan that Mark put in place, I think probably 5 or 6 years ago, I'm saying now, where we are undercoating all our buses. We are able to stretch. We used to be on a 7-year bus replacement plan. So every 7 years a bus would be replaced. That was our goal. But with the steps we've taken, and those really, that three-prong attack, the outstanding work of our mechanics, the 10-year warranty we buy now, and the undercoating, we are able to stretch this replacement plan to a 10-year replacement plan. So 70 buses, basically we're 7-8 buses a year. We have a couple buses. I'll just go down to the fleet real quick. You're seeing this screen, right? Okay. And there's a lot of information here, and I'm sure you guys read all through it. So 70
Yes.
buses is like 7.1 buses a year. Sometimes we have to do a little, that you can't do a 0.1 bus, so it's 8 buses. But then this year we're going to be trying to replace this Dodge minivan, which is used as a transportation vehicle too. We have some sort of small one-offs where we have to get students places. You don't want to take a 28 passenger or a 65 passenger bus to get those students there. So we have these one-off runs, and sometimes they're the McKinney-Vento runs, whatever it is. That's a much more efficient way to run those kinds of runs, is with a minivan type bus. Sometimes it's a special ed run, a single student to a particular special ed outplacement. So in this case, we're recommending replacing 9 school buses. 8 of them are regular buses, and again, the 1 Chrysler Pacifica van. So 5 65 passenger buses and 3 29 passenger buses. No wheelchair buses this year. $798,000 for those buses, and we'll get trades. The trade value for buses right now, we're only going to trade out 8 buses. I gave you the list of them. Is really pretty low. The market for the secondary market for 10-year-old or more buses is pretty insignificant at this point. So we will get some trade value. This is a pathway to trading is a much simpler. We're guaranteed through the trade that we're going to divest ourselves of these buses. Other methodologies for trying to get rid of the buses in terms of public bidding or putting them out on Craigslist or anything like that, it just creates more of an administrative hassle for us, because it might be 1 bus we sell or 2 buses we sell, and then we're stuck with 6 buses, and we're not in the business of having a used bus lot. So this is the most effective and efficient way, is to because we've been asked that question in the past, is to trade the buses as we purchase the new buses. We had a study by Transportation Advisory Services years ago, but really it stands the test of time. TAS is a nationally known organization. They are a New York firm with Florida offices, so they're nationally known, and they came in, and we provided you on your portal the full study. But basically, why I include the section of the study of the bus fleet section is that you'll see they talk about that we should be working towards, and we have adopted the 10-year life cycle, 10-year life cycle of replacement for school buses. And that fits with our plan within this framework. And we've worked really hard. Those of you who have been around for a while, we weren't consistent with our bus replacement plan. And it's important to be able to be on a plan where, again, these are 10-year cycles, but what we have is five-year leases active. And I showed you that earlier, the leases active at any one time. And the goal is, in order to maintain the plan and to keep stable budgeting, is that when a lease drops off, so this $911,000 will be paid off this year, we want to phase in the next bus borrowing, and it might include, again, some other types of equipment now and then, is to maintain those 5 active leases. So it's important. It's important because it allows us to maintain a bus fleet that has newer buses. We're performing less major work on those. Preventative maintenance is less expensive and less timely, so it allows our mechanics, because the study actually shows, and we still are understaffed in the transportation department, but because we're doing these other things and the community is supporting the bus replacement plan, it's such an important component, is maintaining that bus replacement plan, because it allows us to cycle out those older buses, which then means we don't have buses that aren't on warranty, which become more costly to repair, more time consuming, means more buses out of service. So this is all part of a very important, multi-pronged attack on making sure that we have the right, bus fleet in place to be able to deliver students, safely and efficiently. So as we always talk about, that our buses, they don't really retire because of mechanical failure. It's body corrosion, frames, those kinds of things that cause us to have to move on to newer buses. All right, so we're going to replace those 9 buses in the proposition. That's what we're going to propose. We'll have $17,600 for trades. The 8 buses that we are going to trade out, and that's the fleet section. Go down here real quick. So the 8 buses that we're going to trade out are buses that are 10 years old, right? 2010, 2010, 2019. This is a newer bus, but you can look at the miles: 117, 123, 118. It's got 115,000 miles on it. A couple 2012s that are older buses too, with 100,000 miles or so on that. All right. So when we are trading those buses out, the net of the 9 vehicles, again, is $780,600 or $763. So we know our state aid on transportation is 71.8% for this purchase. So the district's net principal cost, I didn't do the borrowing in this calculation, but again, the borrowing on this will be probably in the 1.2 to 1.25 range. It's pretty low interest rate, especially on $800,000 total package borrowing. But the district, the local principal cost of those $768,000 or $780,000 worth of buses, it's only $220,000. So the net local cost for the 5 years that these, that we'll be paying on those bonds for the principal on those buses is $44,000 a year. So you can look at it like this, and imagine the interest is going to be, let's just round it off to $50,000 a year is the local cost. So if you think about it sort of like in a lease term, we're gonna spend $50,000 for the next 5 years to get almost $800,000 worth of buses. It's a pretty good deal, and it really makes sense for maintaining our transportation operation. And then we don't even have to turn them in after 5 years. We get to keep them another 5 years. All right. So the incentive, again, the incentive, the reason that the state does that is incentivize districts to maintain, a high quality fleet, and to replace buses on a routine schedule. So again, we'd have those 5 buses, 565 passenger buses, 118,700 each, just under 600,000, 3 29 passenger buses, 57,000 a piece, $170,794 in the one Chrysler Pacifica minivan, 34,000, so 798. Take out the trades, we're gonna have a net cost of $780,000. Now, finally, this is the fleet section. Again, it talks about the 10-year replacement plan. I think it's just good information for you to have to understand why we're doing this, why 10 years is important for us. And we've given you the specs. I'm not going to go over the specs, but in the past, the board has just wanted to understand, what is it? What are we actually getting on the buses? Are we getting only those things that are absolutely necessary? We believe that, there are some additional items there, but they're important for our operations. But, I just provided just some detail on that. Any questions on bus replacement? And by the way, I'm not asking you tonight. There's actually be at a separate meeting. As long as you're okay and saying, yep, we'd like to proceed with the bus replacement and the equipment purchase, we'll bring forward a resolution that actually adds that separate proposition to the ballot. And you'll see that if you look at our budget calendar, there's a meeting where we talk, we say we're gonna we plan to present the proposition at that, the resolution for the proposition. Questions? That's Mark. Is there anything you want to add?
No, Mike, I think you covered everything very well.
Okay, good.
Unless they have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mark Bobniak, do you want to say you're a big fan of our bus drivers who get our athletes to their games on time, and how accommodating they are, transportation to working with our crazy changing schedules all the time?
Not only are our bus drivers, who are absolutely awesome, but the transportation staff, Mark and his entire staff over there, couldn't ask for a better group of people to work with. And they change on the fly, and especially in the spring when all of a sudden we were supposed to have a home game, our field's not ready, and we need a bus at 2 o'clock to leave at 2:30. They'll get us where we need to go. So thank you.
And that I used you to. So anything on transportation, can you see the interscholastic athletic budget now up there? Oh, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so I used you to segue me into, and are we good on transportation? No questions? Everything's good? Okay. All right, I'm going to assume that your silence means bring that proposition back with both components to add to the agenda, or to the ballot at the in May. Interscholastic athletic budget. So real quick,
Michael,
here,
can we want to let Mark Primo go?
Oh, yeah, sure. Bye, Mark.
I don't want to. He's got to get up and start driving the mountain at 3 a.m. to.
Yeah,
Thanks.
could be tricky
Thanks, Mark.
tomorrow. Could be tricky. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep. All right. So there's really not a lot here to talk about too much in terms of the budget changes. Again, contractual increase. This line item here is not an increase to the budget. The administrator's contract has some language that allows for certain folks based on when they were hired, to sell back unused vacation time, a few days. Not everybody at this point, because it's been grandfathered out of the contract. But this part of the calculation and the potential payout was actually in a single code in the 2020s, which is the supervision code in the main budget. And what happened was, because when the transparency reporting came into place and the ESSA reporting came into place, those require us to do very specific budgeting. That happened a few years ago. We talked about our budget now is very building centric and program centric. So you have to like code so Miller Hill's principal's salary is in a Miller Hill code, and Miller Hill's principal's potential payout of these vacation days is in a Miller Hill code. So it's not in a general code anymore. So you see, if we go back and look at, when you see the full budget, which we'll have, and coming up soon, you'll see where in the 2020 code, there's sort of a lump sum number for all of these potential payouts. They had to be broken out. So we had to bring this one down to the athletics, and then others to their building level code. So it's not an addition. It's just a reallocation of the code specific so that we can accommodate the budget reporting that's now required by ESSA and the state budget transparency reports. All right, so then the rest of them, the coaches, last year you asked us to add in the number of coaches. So that means basketball, there's 8 coaches throughout the program. All right. And then just these increases are based on the contractual increases of the folks that are likely to be back in those positions, right? Because they haven't been appointed yet, but we just budget in that manner. Section 2 and the officials are negotiating a contract. Let's see. So that one right there is actually should say contractual increase. That's the athletic trainer contractual increase. And then down here where it says the officials, that's we did some projecting because there's a ongoing negotiation between Section 2 and the officials, and they're accommodating for, we are for a potential increase in the officiating fees. I support that, by the way. All right. So down in materials and supplies, really the biggest increase there is, or the contractual expense, I'm sorry, is that our new fee for the swimming with Troy. And then we just had some, other miscellaneous items, some CPR, first aid recertifications, buying the materials and stuff there, and Section 2 dues increase. All right. Any questions so far? All right. And then the last one is we had part of the huddle and the Schedule Galaxy, the Family ID program that we use, and that huddle is really, boy, it's pretty timely that we're using huddle. Mark, maybe you can, we added this huddle and increased the service we were getting from huddle just during this year. But maybe you can expand on this a little bit and how important this has actually become for us and how it will be helpful to us in this COVID environment.
Yeah, sure. So just for those of you board members that aren't aware, don't know what Huddle is a program, an internet-based program that all of our coaching staffs use in all of our sports, and pretty much the entire 15 schools in the Suburban Council use. We use it for film exchange, to exchange film with, for example, the basketball programs at Shenandoah and Averill Park exchanging film. We use it for our kids to be able to watch film. We can clip it and send it off to college coaches to watch. In certain programs, Huddle actually breaks down the film for us. Pretty much it's keyed by, player A. If I click on player A after Huddle breaks it down, I can see every play that involves player A in that. But for the time that we're in right now, we actually increased our package a little bit for Huddle, and the timing kind of coincided with the pandemic. And we now have the Huddle Focus camera in our main gymnasium here at the high school. so that we're able to live stream any events that are in our main gymnasium via our Averill Park CSD Athletics YouTube channel. And actually, right before this meeting, I just sent all that information to our coaching staff and to Brian Radowitz. So you'll probably see that going out in district communications within the next couple of days for parents and grandparents and anybody else who obviously can't attend games right now, but they'll still be able to watch their, their children, or even if they don't have children and just like to watch the games. Like Dr. Schaefer, he likes to come to the games. He can tune in and watch the games. And it's this program, there's no subscription fee or anything. So it's great. Just go right to the YouTube channel, click on and watch the games. It's also great now having the Huddle program. In a normal season, our basketball team would gather for an hour and a half after practice, or a football team would gather for, 3 hours on a Sunday morning and watch film. Now, we're not going to do that, but what we're going to do is have virtual film sessions. So all the kids have accounts, they can watch their film prior, or in a Google Meet or a Zoom meeting, whatever the case may be, the coaching staff in a Zoom meeting, they can watch those, watch that together through Huddle. So it's really, it kind of just was a coincidence that we decided to upgrade the camera in the gym. But I'm really glad that we did that. And the camera is totally operated by itself. It works on algorithms that follows the play and follows the ball, and it's sports specific. So for example, basketball, it's obviously going to follow the players running up and down the court and the ball. In a wrestling match, it's going to be static, and it's just going to show, the court. Or a volleyball match, it's just going to show center court and watch the play going from side to side. So really good investment, and it's used by, like I said, used by all of our athletic programs.
Thanks, Mark. So part of that was actually coded prior. Again, I'm just trying to, from time to time, you'll see I've moved some things. I've moved things to where they make most sense in the budget. And we had some of this built into our budget code in the 1310, which is the administrative. So we moved that down. So that, again, was just a reallocation. And this scheduled Galaxy, BOCES Huddle, they're both the Huddle, they're BOCES services. So we purchased them through the Questar COSER. And so they're aided. So I guess you'd say that the net cost of that 14,000 is really about $7,000 and change in that for that purchase. So overall, in the athletics, just under 4%, mainly our contractual coaching increase and adding in our swim program, which has been really popular, right? Mark, can you speak to that a little bit too? I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep putting you on the spot, but I know so many people. Frankly, I didn't realize how many kids swam, and how many kids that of like other kids that are playing different sports at that same time. Like I know, some of the girls that play soccer, but they have a sibling that swims, and they're so excited we have swimming now. I didn't realize there was such a demand for it. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, we had our first year, our merger with Troy this past year. We had, I believe it was 14 girls from Averill Park were part of the team, and I think there was 13 from Troy. So it was definitely about half and half. It went great. It was our first experience with an indoor sport during the pandemic. No issues at all whatsoever over there at Troy. They did a fantastic job. And actually, Emily Kaboot, one of our teachers at Algonquin, got the job as the assistant swim coach. Emily was a college swimmer, so it's great that we have one of our teachers here at Averill Park as one of the assistant coaches for the Troy Averill Park swim team. And we were able to stream those games. Troy was able to stream those matches because, again, we didn't have spectators for swim matches in the fall. But I couldn't ask for a better merger, a better partner with Troy. And I think our kids had an awesome experience.
Thanks. They have a pretty slick setup down there too. Their pool's real nice. Probably they redid that about 15 years ago, so it's a good situation.
And the best part about this merger is Troy's the school that has the pool. We don't have to have a pool, and we don't want
Yes.
a pool.
Amen.
And Jim can speak to that from his previous district. So
Yeah. Amen.
You don't want a pool. That's all. You don't want one.
All right. So I just thought I'd share with you. You'll in the there's a uniform replacement plan. That's that second to last code. You know, we really, again, I don't know. It's the accountant or the, I don't know, the what in me, that make, I just feel like, and we, Mark and I talked about it. I mean, it goes to our technology replacement plan. When we have equipment, we developed a music replacement plan last year. I worked really hard with Sarah Christie on that to come up with a plan. I just feel like we have an obligation to our students to, you know, not every team should get a brand new uniform every year, but we certainly should have some sort of systematic plan for making sure that our students are in appropriate gear, whatever that is, to perform, to play athletics, to perform in music. And I think we should support these. A lot of times, you know, we're going to have some tough calls coming up. These kinds of things are the first things to go, or one of the first things to go. And it's tough because it's not a huge investment. If you look, we can talk about, well, you know, we see the full budget, the music equipment replacement plan that we came up with. I just feel like we should, you know, be putting our students in the right position to be successful, and equipping them appropriately is part of it. It's no different, again, than the technology replacement, and it even can translates over into the buses and the equipment for our grounds folks. And I know tough calls have to be made from time to time in these tough situations, but I just want to stress that we did put a lot of time into this and thought, and there's sort of there's a trickle down. There's a way that the uniforms get replaced at the varsity level and move to the JV level, and then down and down. So so it is important that if you're going to do that kind of thing, sort of move things, cycle them down through, that you do on a systematic basis, you know, replace the top level, I'll call it the varsity level uniforms, so that you can move them down the line in some reasonable condition that's fair to the students at the younger grades and at lower levels of competition.
Hey, Mike, can I just step in there for a second?
Yeah, sure.
Just wanted, when Michael and I put this uniform replacement plan together a couple of years ago, modified sports usually always get, you know, they're at the low end of the totem pole. They get the beat up soccer ball or the beat up basketball, or they ended in some districts, and how we were doing it here was they ended up with a varsity uniform that was 10 years old or more, that was 3 sizes too big on them and had holes in it and everything. So what we did was we decided that the varsity uniforms would get passed down to JV, but what we would do, we would put the modified on their own uniform replacement plan. So they had uniforms that were in good condition. They would last about 6 years, but they would also be size appropriate for them.
Right. Yep. So I just thought I'd just mention that again, because it's important, and we'll talk again. You don't need to see the detail. You can have fun and go over that. The same thing. I just try to give you some historical perspective on what we've spent, just if you're looking, you know, year to year. Any questions on any of this information? Okay, means I guess we answered them all along the way. And so I will stop sharing, and I think we're good for the night on budget. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, I just wanted to thank you for, I know this is your last athletic budget presentation that we'll be working together. I just, you know, I've been here for 7 years. I just wanted to thank you for all the work that you've done. You've helped me tremendously grow in what I do. And I couldn't ask for a better assistant superintendent for a business to work with. And, you know, I think people that are sitting in this room and what a lot of people in our community probably don't realize is all of the background stuff that you do. And it's always about, as we talk about, what's best for kids. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. And let's make sure we get a good contract for those referees.
Thank you, Michael, for the thorough presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, we will move on to item number 7, the discussion on Smart Schools Bond Act.
I will take this one. I'm not sure. This was a presentation I did many times at my former districts, and so I said I'd be happy to take this on. I'm not sure who's presented this in the past to the board. Jim thinks it was him, but it may have been him, may have been his predecessor. But we will we'll work through what is essentially a formality regarding the use of remaining Smart School funds. Just as a background, Smart Schools was approved way back in 2014 by New York State as a way of providing money to schools for really 3 different areas, 2 of which we've already invested in. One was computer network infrastructure. So that's like the wireless network, as well as the brains that keeps everything moving, all the computers moving. They also allowed it for security, and that's the project that's literally going on right now to upgrade the cameras and the backbone of our security system. And then the third way was through the use of classroom technology, and that's the proposal that we're bringing forth tonight. In terms of how this works, New York State requires that we do a preliminary presentation of our plan and then post that plan for a 30-day review period for the community to respond to. And then we would be bringing this plan back in 30 days for formal approval. So tonight is our presentation. We'll have the 30-day period, and then we'll come back on March 8th for final approval. We are required to submit to New York State, after we get board approval, a Smart Schools investment plan, which is a spending plan of how we're going to use the funding. The district funding back in 2014 was originally set for $2.1 million approximately. And as I mentioned, we've already spent the money in 2 prior phases. Phase 1 was the network infrastructure, which was a little over $1 million. And currently in phase 2, we're doing the security system and cameras for about $900,000. That leaves us with a little bit over $150,000 of our original allocation. There was no time limit on purchases. As part of Smart Schools, you have to spend the money up front, and then they reimburse you fairly quickly, for the state fairly quickly, with funding for anything that's allocated as part of those investment plans. So they did not put a cap on that. So we've been able to kind of take our time and thoughtfully spend the money in areas that are needed. And so what we're looking at right now for phase 3 is a need for classroom technology. The operational budget supports the purchases of Chromebooks for our one-to-one initiative, which, if you remember last year, is now expanded in 6th through 12th grade. As we presented last month at the board meeting for technology, we're looking to expand that down to 5th grade, so that we'll be replacing Chromebooks on a 4-year cycle. There'll be a new one in 5th grade and a new one in 9th grade. What it doesn't account for are our youngest learners, our elementary and grades, really K4. We currently have Chromebooks in classrooms, roughly 15 per classroom, that are aging out. They are going to be end of life, as they call it in the technology world, sometime within the next 2 years, which means they won't be supported by the vendor, so they don't get updated, you can't get parts, and so on. So it would make sense for us to try to figure out a way to replace those. Within our operational budget, those funds are fairly limited because we've devoted it to the upper level one-to-one. So we're proposing using the $150,000 for classroom technology to allow us to get to where we believe will be down to hopefully grades 2 through 4. And that would not only be replacing the 15, but would be increasing the allocation in those classrooms so that we could truly be one-to-one in each of those classrooms in grades 2, 3, and 4. You'll notice that I have 583 Chromebooks, which equals 145, not 150. Smart Schools does require, as part of the the authorization, I guess, for the funding, that you also have a private school allocation if you have a private school that resides in your district. So we are required to provide through a formula a portion of the funding to the Parker School. So the Parker School will also get $4,600 of that $150,000. So we'll be taking the chunk of it and looking to purchase Chromebooks. Realistically, the approval process takes longer than we would like. Typically, for a project like we just did with the security, that took, I believe it was over a year for approval. Classroom technology tends to go a little quicker, so hopefully we can get approval in 6 to 8 months or so, which would allow us to buy them some point next year.
Matt, I have a question about the private school allocation.
Yeah.
Is that in cash or in Chromebooks?
They can choose. It has to be for classroom technology. They can choose from a list of things. Devices are one of them. Interactive whiteboards, large screen displays. There's a list that they can choose from. The district actually purchases the devices for Parker, and we technically loan them to the district. They are our devices, but we provide them for Parker.
And we repair them also if they need.
It's just for the device. We are not required to maintain or install.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of the process, as I mentioned, we're doing the public presentation tonight. We'll post this presentation on our website tomorrow, which will start the 30-day review period. We'll be back on March 8th and ask for your approval of this plan, and then would submit it to New York State the next day and wait for their approval so that we can commence with purchasing. As part of the review period, we would ask anyone with questions to direct it to our clerk, Linda, and then we can answer those questions anytime during the 30-day period. And that is our phase 3 investment plan. Any questions on that? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That was good. Good presentation and all encompassing, and way to eke out the last dollar. Okay. Nobody had thought of any questions in the meantime? All right. That brings us to item number 8, the board member report. And Lauren, would you like to check in on anything?
I would just like to say from the beginning and the wellness day, I thought it was overall really well as a student perspective. I thought it ran really well. I thought what the 2 meets that I were in went really well. So I just wanted to say that.
Great. Well, we certainly appreciate your feedback. Thank you. Chris?
Alrighty, thank you. In terms of the capital plan and holding off on it, completely understand. I think the focus needs to be, on getting our budget passed here in the May timeframe. I guess I just remind the public in general, anyone who's actually listening, I think we got to put something about sports in there, and then we get a big turnout. Seems to be what I've seen over time here. But just a reminder to folks that, if the board does proceed with looking at putting this out in that mid-October timeframe or somewhere in there, I don't know if I don't have the patience, but I just want to make sure the folks understand that, we're trying to approach this, and it's not through some sleight of hand that we're looking to do it at a different time of year. It's just from a timing standpoint. We understand, we know we need to focus on getting the budget through and understood. So capital plan mid-October, I support it, and let's see if we can try to put something forth to the public. And then the last thing I'll end with is with Miss Linda retiring from us. Having served in a leadership capacity, I know as board members in general, I think we've all had the pleasure of Linda helping us through whatever may be our challenges that we have. But I think those who have been able to serve in a leadership position and having interacted with Linda a little bit more, see the tremendous value that she brings. And I'm not sure how Dr. Franchini is going to survive beyond March, truthfully. I think I'm going to have to serve some counseling, and feel free to come up the hill here and, seek a respite if you need it. But Linda, can't thank you enough for your friendly and your calming influence through all these years. Your smile and your ability to kind of keep us all grounded and moving forward is very much appreciated. And I hope you guys are able to enjoy some warmer weather, hopefully get out on the bikes, do all those fun things, and catch up with the extended family. So thank you again, and take care. Thanks,
Thank you
Jessica.
very much. Thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you. Doug?
I also want to thank Linda. She helped me transition into the board. I was able to ask her some questions, and some questions that turned out to be dumb questions. But anyway, she helped me a lot get used to the whole process and the technology involved here. So Linda, thank you very much for your help, and I wish you the best in retirement.
Oh,
I also wanted to mention another teacher who's retiring, and that's Mrs. Boulay. I know she was a topic of conversation at our house many times, talking about the horticulture program. And I know she sold flowers to raise revenue for her class. At election time, they had a table set up in the hallway. And it was just so nice to see the students participating in that with the plants and with Mrs. Boulay. So we're going to miss some of those people that are leaving us. I know that. The last thing I just wanted to say is I think the acquisition of a rack truck is a really nice acquisition. It's a good purchase. It's heavy duty. It's going to last longer than a pickup, with a lift gate and a rack body and a snow plow, all coming in one unit for that price. I think that's a job well done to identify that as a purchase, and I hope it's supported. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Megan?
I don't really have anything to report. Stop the presses. Just job well done to everybody, and hope everyone's staying safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Anne?
Thank you. First of all, sorry about chiming in a little late this evening. Sometimes my one student has to take precedence over the district students, and this was a conflict that I had. So I apologize for that. But I also want to wish you, Linda, a very happy retirement publicly. You always easy to work with and so patient and calming. And also Mrs. Boulay, I'm so fortunate that my kids got to have her as a teacher. It's just such a strange feeling, this mixed emotions of, gratitude and a little bit of sadness, gratitude that we had the opportunity to work with you, and sadness that you're going to go, but we love you. So we wish the best for you. So I appreciate all your service, and same to Mrs. Boulay. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Thanks, Anne. Peter?
I'll follow up on Anne's comments too. The students always call her Boulay. There's no first name involved there. And it's been a pleasure working with her. And I hope she stays in touch, because she can help us out at the college as well in her retirement. And Linda, like I said before, you've been a real asset to me when I was board president. Always courteous and caring. So we're going to miss you, and I know you're going to miss us. But I wish you the best. Take care.
Thank you, Peter. I will miss you. I will miss all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you, Peter. I don't have anything in addition to add to what's already been said. I appreciate that there was a lot of thorough presentations tonight, the Bond Act, with the budgets, as well as during the superintendent's report, the update on our strategic plan. So lots of good information tonight. Okay, I think it's time to adjourn the meeting. If we have a motion, Megan, see a motion from you to adjourn. Seconded by Chris. Thank you. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Uh-huh.